back at it again. It's a can't stop, won't stop situation. Season 2, episode 26, part 285 edition here on the State of Football. September 7th, 2021. RIC in a place to be. Back at the Jersey Shore, reporting live into your living room around the universe. We have a lot of action going on. We got NFL kicking off in just 2 days. We've got college football action with Ole Miss and Louisville last night. Reaction from the college football weekend. We have reaction from the CFL Labor Day weekend affairs. Jam-packed edition here. And we're going to run through that in just a moment. But first, let me just tell you about what's going on over at the NFLDraftBible.com, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. We right now have over 300 plus scouting reports for the 2022 NFL Draft and beyond. Make sure you go all access, subscribe, get yourself the premium content across the Sports Illustrated platforms, and an annual subscription to SI. I think it's down around $69 or something for the year, which is a phenomenal deal going on right now. So take advantage of that. Also, hubfootball.com. We'll talk more about it later. The player registrations are flowing in. Make sure you take advantage of your film package, your early registration film package. You'll save yourself a lot of money down the line. And, of course, the scout camp that we'll get into later on today that is going to sell out. So a lot of people have been hitting me up about how do I attend the Hub Football Scout Camp. And the man that you need to speak with is with us right here, right now. He's Russ Lande. He's back in Chicago. He joins us here each and every Tuesday on this Tutorial Tuesday because we like to educate and regulate. Good morning, Russ, back in Chi-Town. How are you, brother?
I'm doing great. I'm just excited. You said we're educating today. So who are we bringing on the show?
We dabble, a little bit. You never know who's going to join us here on the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. And Russ back making a pit stop in Chicago before you head up to Montreal for the rest of the season, from what I heard, a little birdie told me. So let's talk about CFL this past weekend. Montreal, big win, 49-24, I think you guys defeated.
49-29, I think, off the top of my head. It was good. It was good to get back to winning after losing 2 games and seeing the offense start to click better than it had at any point this year. So a lot of credit goes obviously to Vernon Adams, our quarterback, the rest of the players and the coaching staff. Just excited. Always good to get on the winning track. And right now we're in a 3-way tie for first place. So
not bad. That's where you want to be after Labor Day, right?
That's for sure.
And Labor Day, of course, being a very, very traditional weekend for the Canadian Football League. And also some sad news. I know the former owner of the Montreal Allouettes also passing away over the weekend here.
Yeah, I never had the chance to meet Mr. Wetnall. When I came on, it was one of his last handful of years owning, but I met his son, and he was just a guy that saved the franchise and sort of allowed the Alouettes to continue. He bought them when they were on the verge of bankruptcy, and really made them not only a successful team financially, but really made a huge impact. There was a 10-year stretch where they went to 8 Grey Cups in 10 years. He set a record for the Alouettes, 100 consecutive sellouts while he was the owner. So really did a lot of great things and really sort of stamped the Alouettes franchise to be a permanent part of the Montreal sort of culture by the way he owned it and ran it and really made sure to make them an integral part of the community. So sad day. Very excited for the future of the Alouettes, which wouldn't be possible if it wasn't for the contributions and the effort he made.
Yeah, certainly a pioneer, it sounds like, when it comes to CFL, and we thank Robert Wettenhall for all that he's done for this great game of football and the Montreal Alouettes. Thoughts and prayers out to the family there. Thoughts and prayers to all the great folks that we're losing in the football community. I know there's been a handful of them, Russ, here as we get ready, but 2 days away, we made it, my brother. 2 days away from the NFL season kickoff, and we'll take a deeper dive tomorrow on the CFL with Amanda Ruler. We got Chris O'Leary checking in. We'll have somebody dialing up from the European League of Football. But let's shift gears and transition into the NFL, Russ, because we're 2 days away. Buccaneers and Cowboys. We might just ask you for a prediction before you go. But I figured we'd have a little fun We had Ralph Ventry on yesterday. We did some season predictions, little rapid fire style. I came up with some lists, and we're gonna update these throughout the year. And shout out to all the chat room people. Love to see Tom Goodhines there showing the love and support from the desert of Vegas out there at 6 a.m. Hey, the sun never sets, so Tom's always rising. And the super producer Sam is still in North Carolina. She's making the trek back up. But we're gonna do something cool, and maybe we'll do it every Tuesday. We're going to update the RIC polls each week. And so I came up with some polls, and Samantha will eventually create some fancy looking graphics for these, but we'll just have to verbally communicate them, Russ. And so we'll just dive right into it. I have my NFL Week 1 power rankings, and I'm going to put you on the spot here. We don't have to go through every single one. I'll run down my list. You give me a team or two that stands out that either says, too high, or I'm really not a fan, or maybe I'm a bigger fan than you are, and we'll go backwards here with the RIC Week 1 power rankings. Since the Buccaneers are playing on Thursday night, let's see if there's some foreshadowing there, but I'm going to go like this, Russ. I've got top 10 right now. Pittsburgh Steelers, LA Rams, Seattle Seahawks, Baltimore Ravens, Tennessee Titans, Cleveland Browns, Green Bay Packers, Buffalo Bills, Kansas City Chiefs, Tampa Bay Bucks. So a lot of the usual suspects there. And if you look at the common denominator, much like every year in the NFL, the common denominator there is a very good starting quarterback.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, I think the best proof of that is number 4, Green Bay Packers. I mean, the reality is if Aaron Rodgers doesn't play for them this year, they might be on the next list we talk about, which are the 10 worst teams. Because to me, they're a team that's very fragile. They're not very deep. They're literally a quarterback away from being a bad team. The two things on there that jump out are, A, the Steelers. To me, I have real questions about their overall ability to consistently win games because of that offensive line. But at the same time, they're a franchise that always finds a way. So they will probably find a way, even though I don't think they'll be a very pretty team this year. And to me, the Ravens and Browns are interesting because if we're talking Week 1 power rankings, who's going to be the best team in the regular season? I think Baltimore should be 3 or 4. But if you're talking which team's going to be best when the season ends and we get to the playoffs, I think Cleveland should be definitely ahead of Baltimore. And Baltimore could even be a notch or two lower because I just don't see them being a team that's going to win in the postseason until Lamar Jackson proves he can pass against the top NFL defenses in the playoffs.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. There's a big question mark hanging over Lamar Jackson's head when it comes to postseason play. Anyway, he's been one and done or a quick out almost every single year that he's taken the Ravens to the playoffs. Now, I will say this about Pittsburgh. I think they have a very underrated, explosive offense. I think people are going to be surprised. And Big Ben, 15 pounds lighter this year, coming in. Maybe Ben found the gym during the offseason here. But when you take a look at the emerging star in Chase Claypool, I think Juju Smith-Schuster is going to have a bounce-back year. They've got Deontay Johnson who can stretch the field, and then Eric Ebron underneath. Now you add the running back there out of Alabama, Najee Harris. To your point, the offensive line is a little bit suspect. But
you're right, though. Talent-wise, if they can protect Ben, they're going to score a lot of points.
I think so. And Pittsburgh always has a formidable defense. And so, there's a reason why Tomlin has had a winning record for 14 consecutive seasons. I know people are looking to throw dirt on the grave of the Pittsburgh Steelers after their late season debacle a year ago, but they were 11-0. And to me, the roster is arguably better. So we'll see how that shakes out. I do think Pittsburgh has an easier schedule for whatever that's worth. I don't put much stock into that in the National Football League. Every game's hard. Every week. So, all right, little fun with the power rankings. So we did our top 10 overall teams. Now we have the Week 1 sour rankings. And my daughter Oceana is a big fan of the Sour Patch Kids.
Who isn't?
And so we got the Week 1 sour rankings, Russ, and the top 10 teams that stink. And I had a tough time kicking it off. Denver at number 10 because they do have one of the better defenses, I believe. Carolina at number 9, I think, is really close. This is a quarterback away from being a playoff team. Otherwise, I like all the pieces in place. Atlanta At number 8, I just think the gas has kind of been deflated with the trade of Julio, kind of the rebuilding mode there. And then we get into some really, the Cincinnati Bengals at 7 aren't necessarily terrible, but we just mentioned the Ravens, Browns, and Steelers, possibly all top 10 teams. That's 6 games on the docket there for Cincinnati, so they're going to be in for a rough season. And then the really stinky teams to me, starting at number 6, Philadelphia Eagles, Jacksonville Jaguars. The New York Giants fans are going to hate me for having them at number 4, but at least they're not number 2, which is where the New York Jets are. In between is the Detroit Lions at 3. And right now, I mean, if I'm a Houston Texan, I'm running. I'm running far. I don't want to be anywhere near or inside the Texans locker room right now. And until they show me otherwise, Russ, I have them as the biggest debacle for the NFL.
I understand that, but I got to say, the two teams, and the Texans are one of them, to me are a little bit different than where you have them ranked. And the reason I say that with the Texans is when I look at the Jets or the Lions or the Jaguars or the Eagles, at least I know with the Texans, when Tyrod Taylor's under center, he's almost never going to make the big mistake. He may not win games for him, but he's not going to blow games with 3 interception games. He's going to be conservative. He's going to avoid the mistake. So I think they're going to be a lot closer in every game than a lot of these other teams. Now, whether they win enough, I don't know. But I think they're going to be actually more competitive. The team on there that I think you have too high in terms of being too good is I look at Cincinnati. And I think that could be a team that ends up down by the Jets and the Lions. I mean, yes, they have Joe Burrow, but wow, offensive line, whew, that is a scary offensive line to place around a quarterback coming off a blown-out knee. That to me looks like a franchise, unfortunately, going in the wrong direction.
It is a scary thought with the injury that he had and the lack of upgrade that Cincinnati provided there. However, I mean, I will say their roster is not too terrible. I mean,
agreed.
It's not a terrible roster, but the offensive line is really a big hole, and it's going to be ugly. The Steelers, the Ravens, the Browns especially are going to feast on that offensive line. And so, the Bengals are going to go back to being the Bungles, it sounds like, and that head coach over there might be out of there after the season. All right, Russell Lande, Rick Serritella breaking it down, having some fun with some NFL preseason polls. All right, Russ, we mentioned quarterbacks being such a big factor. We're going to do the quarterback poll, and I'm going to give you my top 10 quarterbacks as of today. And, this one's going to be a lot of up for debate here, but I threw Dak Prescott in there at 10. I think he can ascend, but until he shows me he's healthy with the shoulder and the foot and everything else, I have him in there at number 10. Ryan Tannehill at 9, to me, I think is one of the more underrated players in the league, quite frankly. I have Kyler Murray at 8. I think you could slide him up or down either way, depending on what you're looking for in a quarterback. But I think he's going to have the Cardinals in contention. I think he's one of the more dynamic dual-threat quarterbacks around the league. And then this one might surprise some people, but number 7, Justin Herbert, I actually want to put him higher, but until they can actually start winning some ball games, it's hard to justify. But number 7, Justin Herbert is a guy I think will be a top 5 quarterback very soon in the National Football League. Lamar Jackson, the former MVP, at 6. Josh Allen of Buffalo at 5. And then you got the chip winners, right? Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers, Patrick Mahomes, and Tom Brady. I know a lot of people aren't giving Tom Brady the respect he deserves at this stage of his career, but he's still the king of the mountain as far as I'm concerned. He's still doing it, and he's probably forgotten more football than Patrick Mahomes even knows.
All right, so I hear you on some of these, but to me, the big thing I'm trying to figure out is there's a quarterback who he missed one of the last 3 years, but those other 2 years, he's got 67 touchdown passes, 26 interceptions, 2 Super Bowl victories, and he's not in your top 10? How is Big Ben not ahead of Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert, Kyler Murray, Ryan Tannehill? To me, he's got to be 5, 6. I mean, that to me is a slam dunk. Kyler Murray, this is a big year. 2 straight years of starter not going to the playoffs. Justin Herbert didn't go to the playoffs last year. To me, those guys are on the fringe of top 10. I don't think either one of them's a top 10 guy right now. I think Dak, if he's healthy, is in that 5 to 7 range. But I get the top 3 or 4. Those are all rock stars. You could probably sort them in any way you want. But to me, Big Ben has to be on this list. I mean, you're talking 2 Super Bowls, 2 straight 30-yard touchdown seasons when he's been healthy. He deserves a little more credit, in my opinion.
I think that's the problem, though. You said when he's been healthy. I saw him lose a couple miles per hour off the fastball last year. That's just me. That's
33 and 10.
I hear you, and he was in the top 10. Honestly, you could put him right there at 5, and I'd have no problem with that. I'd be fine with that. But I just think if I had to win one game, you're right. Maybe Big Ben should be in there. I agree with that.
That's the only one I really disagree with, just because
I guess you would take Kyler Murray out, I guess.
I probably would. I mean, it's not that I don't think Kyler's very talented, but it's like at some point I want to see it in wins. I want to see 9 or 10 wins. I mean, Big Ben's been winning year after year after year and carrying that offense on his back. Tannehill came there for his career, sort of fell apart, comes down there to Tennessee, and really changes things, really becomes a much better, more efficient quarterback. So, and even Herbert. I mean, Herbert and Murray, to me, if I was going to include them in this, they'd have to be the bottom 2. And Big Ben would be above both of them, in my opinion.
Don't necessarily disagree. That's why we have Russell Lande on each and every Tuesday here on the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. All right, Russ. Well, a lot of these bottom feeder teams are going to be in the QB market. A lot of Twitterverse overreaction from Week 1 college football. The heralded quarterbacks, many of them not playing up to expectations. Let's pump the brakes. It's only one game, but we're going to keep tabs on who the top quarterback prospects are around the college football landscape. And here's what I've come up with. To me, and I know Albany lost this past week, but to me, Jeff Undercuffler from Albany, he slides in at number 10 just because I think he's one of the best kept secrets in college football. And I hate to throw this comparison out there, but he actually reminds me of Ben Roethlisberger when he was at Miami, Ohio. Same body frame, same kind of arm, same pocket passer. And then we get into JT Daniels from Georgia. Not exactly the performance we were expecting out of Clemson, but they get the W. Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati. I don't know how I feel about his pro prospects, but he is one of these dual threat guys who, from my understanding, is going to test through the gymnasium. So at the very least, you probably have an athlete. You can figure out maybe he's a Taysom Hill kind of experiment. I don't know. Sam Howell comes in at number 7, North Carolina quarterback, who I was never really a huge fan of. I think, he's more hype than substance. I get the Baker Mayfield similarities. I'm not ready to call him that just yet. Number 6, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, I think is is ascending star who's going to get better every week. You saw him beat LSU this week. He's got a cannon of an arm. Another guy who can move the chains with his feet if he needs to. Phil Jerkovic from Boston College. You got to like the poise in the pocket with this. This guy's just tough. He's big. He's got a nice arm. And he's really running that up-tempo offense to a T there. For the Eagles there in BC up there in Chestnut Hill. Then Malik Willis at number 4 of Liberty, I think is an intriguing guy. And then the top 3 right now, Spencer Rattler of Oklahoma, who's favored to go number 1. I'm not there yet. I just need a little bit more persuasion. Keaton Slovis of USC is number 2 for me. And then Carson Strong of Nevada. I'll say the only criticism I have of his game is, I want to reel in some of his emotions. He's a very emotional young man, and sometimes the body language on the field and the frustrations tend to show. Receiver drops a pass, he's sure to let it. I just want to see him mature. But otherwise, Carson Strong, very similar to Carson Palmer, and so he sits atop the QB power poll. Not sure how many of these QBs you got to see this past weekend, Russ, but initial thoughts and impressions there.
Well, firstly, I think the most intriguing guy of those top guys, top 3 or 4 guys, is Malik Willis. Because I think when you watch Willis, you see a guy with the potential talent-wise, to jump all the way to the top of this, because he does some things throwing-wise that get you excited. You want to see a little more consistency. You want to get a feel for, he's playing at Liberty. How is he going to fare against the better competition? But he, to me, is really intriguing because of what he has shown in flashes. And to me, the most, I think, unique guy in this list is the Thompson Robinson kid out of UCLA. I mean, I think if you took 80% of his game, 80% of the time you watch him, you'd think, oh, this isn't the guy who can throw the ball. He's really just an athlete playing quarterback. But 3 or 4 times a game, you'll see him make a throw, and you'll say, wow, that's a big arm. He made a really good throw, even when his feet weren't perfectly set. You say, oh, there might be something to work with here as a passer, as opposed to just being an athlete. So he, to me, is the guy that I can't wait to see him as he goes through this season. Because last year, it was more like one throw game that got you excited, and the rest was athletic ability. That game against LSU, you saw a few missed throws, but you saw 3 or 4 where you said, wow. And you see the athletic ability. He, to me, is the most unique guy on this list, a chance to move way up. And really, can he prove that he is a passer or is he an athlete? And that, to me, is what I want to see from him. Howell was a little disappointing. Daniels, definitely some disappointment there. But let's remember, first game, guys need a whole season. Let's see what they can do. But I like your list. I'm excited to look at the Undercuffler kid at Albany. There's a small school kid that I sort of like that I don't want to put his name out there because I like him for the Alouettes. But, yeah, I'm intrigued by a kid from Albany. There aren't many guys that come out of there.
Yeah, and, I'll give you a hot take because you mentioned Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Jeff Undercuffler, 2 guys arguably that have the strongest arms in the nation at the collegiate level. And I agree with you. Dorian Thompson-Robinson, you got to respect the arm talent, the arm strength. He can really get it downfield. And remember now, here's a guy who played at Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas, a powerhouse, and he sat for 3 years. He only started his senior year of high school. And so, as he gets more experience, he just continues to get better and better and better. And that's why I say there's no ceiling to how high he can go. And so there's a look, some guys, Grayson McCall from Marshall just missed. Dustin Crum from Kent State just missed. And so we'll try to keep tabs on that each week. And so going through, we'll do a little college football poll. And I did not see the most recent top 25, Russ. I did not check it out. I'm going to give you my top 10, however. And so I've got the Penn State Nittany Lions bouncing back in a big way. That was an impressive win over Wisconsin. Their defense is stout. I'll just say it right now. I think they have maybe the top 5 defense in the nation, that Penn State team, and that's why I have them at number 10. And they're going to be dueling it out, in my opinion, with Ohio State for the Big Ten. We mentioned Keita Slovis. Is this the year USC finally gets back to respectability? I've got them at number 9 right now. It's probably higher than what the consensus is. At number 8, I got Iowa State. I love what Matt Campbell's building there. You could probably argue you could slide Iowa here at number 8, the way they blew out Indiana, but I'm putting Iowa State at 8. Texas A&M at 7. I think if Alabama or Georgia falters, Texas A&M is going to be hovering, looking right over their shoulder all season long. I'm rolling Cincinnati in there at number 6. I think this team is being very, very disrespected. And so I'm giving them some level of respect at number 6. Ohio State, who I was not impressed with week 1, but we're not going to overreact. I still think they're the team to beat in the Big Ten, but they're on shaky grounds. They're coming in at 5. Oklahoma, same deal. Didn't wow me, right? Didn't wow me. But you got to respect what they're capable of doing. If you remember last year, the Sooners kind of stumbled out of the gate, finished up strong. They still won, so they're still in the top 4. And then the next 2, I think Georgia and Clemson, what a game. What a way to kick off week 1 of the college football season. I was on record yesterday saying I think it's going to be a rematch in the College Football National Championship of Georgia-Clemson. However, I still have Alabama at number 1 until they actually do lose. And Alabama and Georgia do not play this year, so you could maybe see 2 SEC teams in the college football playoffs again. But Alabama maintaining the top spot. with Georgia and Clemson breathing down their neck, Russ, to me, that is college football elitism right now. They are head and shoulders, in my opinion, clearly above the rest of the pack.
I agree with you in terms of overall talent, but I think that for Georgia and Clemson to realistically stay in that discussion as the season goes on, they're going to have to get better play from the quarterbacks. You're not going to win missing throws like they did. The one team I think you're not giving enough credit to here is, I know Penn State. They beat Wisconsin. That's great. But Wisconsin's quarterback didn't look particularly good. They were not super impressed on offense. And Penn State really struggled offensively most of the game. So, and to have them there and not have UCLA, who just beat LSU, and they didn't just beat them. They physically kicked them up and down the field in that second half. So that's the one thing, the one team I think is missing there is UCLA may not be a perfect all-around offense, but I'll say one thing. Physically, they put a whooping to LSU. And LSU's defense, especially D-line, was supposed to be the strength of that team, and they got marched up and down the field that game. So that, to me, is going to be the team that's going to be so interesting to watch this year because they're basically saying, we're going to run it, and we're going to run it down your throat to win. And can you really win doing that as a powerful team in NCAA anymore, or do you have to have a well-rounded, all-around passing game?
Well, let's give a little props to Chip Kelly now because I think this is year 4, so this is essentially mostly if not all, it's all his recruits now. So you're right. I gotta reconsider UCLA. I think because they were so streaky last year that still a little. But you're right, UCLA, and I think Iowa. I mean, they just dismantled Indiana. They took them apart now pretty good there. So I think they also deserve.
Well, I think you got to almost wonder what was happening with Indiana when one of their own players comes out with a jersey with the team names misspelled on it. So that in and of itself was sort of a bad omen for Indiana.
I didn't see that. I didn't see that. Was that pregame, Russ, or what's the story?
No, and they were, I guess, coming out of the tunnel.
Really?
The jerseys. Yeah, it's not a good sign. No. And it's a shame. They have a good coach, and things seem to be really going in the right direction for Indiana. So I was surprised to see that little mishap.
Yeah, and we had Tom Brew on the show Friday.
Yeah, and we talked to him a while back.
Yeah, and we spoke to him, and he was on again this past Friday, and he was pumping up the Hoosiers. I said, "Oh man, I'm gonna pick Indiana," and I said, "Oh boy, I got crushed." By the way, I did give out some picks last week, and I do have how we did. So I went on the record with 10 games with the spread. We went 6. Yeah, we went 6-4, and
that's good.
And we went 2-1 with our best bets. So hopefully,
that's a guaranteed better than I would have done.
maybe we put a couple of ducats in some people's pockets over the Labor Day weekend. By the way, how was your Labor Day weekend, Russ?
Well, let's say I made it from Boston to Chicago. 10 hours a day of driving, so it was a driving weekend.
I'll tell you, man, Boston is brutal. The traffic is brutal going through there, man.
Yeah, we were lucky. We got out and didn't hit any real traffic, literally the whole trip. We got very fortunate.
I had to leave Boston last Monday. I ducked out of town like 5 a.m. I just said, get me out of here.
Yeah.
It was like a 9-hour tour. It was a 9-hour journey to get up.
Oh, it's a bear. Boston, when it's like traffic time, those the roundabouts up there, they kill you.
Yeah, there's just so much freaking construction always going on that there's just no way to get in and out clean anymore. How about the Scarlet Knights, Tom Goodhines? What? Those Jersey boys, man. Now, don't get me too excited here. And Temple, somebody texted me, I think it was Mook from Boston. He goes, man, Temple really stinks this year, huh? I said, I don't know. I said, I thought Temple was actually a formidable squad. I said, I think it's just a sign of things to come here. And you talk about the Big Ten now.
Yeah.
Wow. Watch out. Look out. Rutgers is going to be 3-0 heading into that game against Michigan there. And shout out to my guy, Eugene Chung, Coach Chung, if you're watching. I told you. Rutgers is coming, baby. Chopped.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I think they are 100% headed in the right direction. I think you're going to see them back to winning like they did the first time Greg was head coach there. They're going to have regular guys in the recruiting class that become stars that end up as first and second round picks.
And I don't know if I told you this, but that running back there, Pacheco.
You've mentioned his name.
Yeah, so I mean, Shiano called him the toughest running back he's ever coached.
Wow, that's a pretty big statement. He's had some good ones.
I said, Coach, you putting him in the Ray Rice category? He said Ray's talent was just on a whole nother level than everybody else, but in terms of just pure toughness, he said, this is the toughest running back he's ever coached. And he's built like a freaking brick house, dude. You see this guy? I'm telling you, we had a couple of NFL scouts hanging out. We were all gawking like, that's a thoroughbred. Wow. And he didn't have the most productive day. He's not going to wow you. Like, he's probably like a 4.52 guy. But, man, he can move the chains. He's going to be a tough, hard-nosed, between the tackles runner. He might be the best prospect on the team. Bo Melton, the wide receiver there, is making some plays. They got the linebacker, Fatakuse, and the corner, actually, Trey Avery, very good-looking slot corner, had an interception. But, yeah, thanks for reminding me, Tommy, about the Rutgers
That's
Scarlet
important.
Knights.
Rutgers stepping up. It's great to see.
Man, I'll tell you, they're going to make some noise this year. So,
and you know, like I do, when they do well, it makes life harder for Penn State because they've lived their whole time since Joe Pa through now of getting the best players from Jersey. So when Rutgers starts winning and recruiting better, it makes it hard for Penn State to really compete because they don't get all those Jersey players.
Well, and when Shiano left, you had Boston College and Pitt now raiding the Garden State, and a lot of guys, look no further than Kenny Pickett. But a lot of guys, Adazio and Narduzzi, were both recruiting heavily from Jersey. No more. Fence the Garden, baby. Woo!
Yeah. Sort of do the Jimmy Johnson put the fence around of Florida is what he said. That's what Shiano does in Jersey. He has a great ability to get guys to stay home.
By the way, Tom Goodhine's telling me Eugene Chung will be stepping in as the Hub football head coach for the upcoming event. We'll get into Hub football in just a minute, but of course, Coach Chung, trying to hold the NFL accountable with their latest, actions and his job interview process, and maybe we'll pop him up here and get him on the show to discuss that. Craig T. Smith chiming in. 2 quarterbacks who impressed me: Tyler Johnson, UAB, Matty Corral, Ole Miss. I had the UAB game on while I was working. I didn't really get to watch a lot of it. Corral, though, has got a live arm, great footwork. You talk about playing under Lane Kiffin, Russ. There's a lot to like, and let's be frank, that top 10 quarterback rankings, they're the 10 that I named. Whoever goes number 1 overall might not even be on that list. Matty Corral might be a guy that can sneak into the equation there.
Well, Corral's a real interesting kid because he's so athletic. I mean, when you watch the kid, he's a guy who can make plays not only with his arm, but with his feet. When you watch him, though, he doesn't look big. That's the interesting thing to me. I want to see, is this a guy that's legitimately going to impress NFL teams size-wise, or is he going to be a team or a player that teams have to sort of say, okay, I can get over the fact that he's not big? Because when I watch him, he reminds me a lot of sort of a runaround athletic guy who's a little bit undersized. But I'll tell you one thing, he can make the throws. The ball comes out fast. He's got a nice, good lower body mechanics in terms of stride into his throws, getting juice behind his throws. And I'll tell you one thing, I don't remember what game it was last year. It was like an offensive shootout. I think it was early in the season, and it was back and forth, and he was marching them up and down the field. I think it was against Alabama, actually, and he was playing great football. So, yeah, he's a really interesting kid because a lot of those athletes, and you know this, Rick, you've been doing this forever, is a lot of those super-duper athletes are not the best throwers. But this kid can actually throw the ball, and I like the ball comes out quick. He doesn't have that big loop at the bottom of his delivery. The ball's out really quick and fast.
Yeah, and Craig T. chiming in, he's a leader, and that's one of the most important characteristics of your quarterback. So shout out to Lane Kiffin, too. I know he was out with the COVID, so Good to see him at least doing the radio or the TV segment from his home. So he's in good condition and spirits. It seems like, but that's my power rankings list. Russ, any other kind of thoughts or reactions from the first weekend of college football? We had a pretty good one with Notre Dame and Florida State the other night. Notre Dame omitted from my top 10 poll. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of what I saw out of Jack Cohn. I didn't think he was that great at Wisconsin, and I'm not sure that's their guy over the long haul.
I think the biggest thing to me was, how about Mackenzie Milton?
Oh yeah, that was very cool.
That was a great story. I mean, this is a guy, a lot of people thought that injury was not just career-ending, but they thought it was going to be something that affected him for the rest of his life. And to see him back out there playing and making plays, well, it was really phenomenal. Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at Notre Dame, I mean, the tight end looked very good. He made a lot of plays.
He had a couple drops, though. He had a couple drops there.
But athletically, there aren't many that big and strong. But I think overall, you have to look at Notre Dame and say, okay, there's some things you did well offensively, but defensively, I mean, that was a bit of a concern. That game should not, to me, Florida State's offense, I didn't think it was that good, and they didn't seem to have a lot of trouble putting up points. So that I want to see Notre Dame play against a few better teams to get a feel for how good that defense is.
Yeah, and I think, we talk about, like, how many times over the weekend did you hear, all Alabama does is reload. Alabama and Clemson, they just reload. Well, I'm not so sure that's the case there in Notre Dame. Like, they lost a lot of firepower on that defense. I mean, they probably lost at least half a dozen guys to the next level. I'm not sure they're 2 deep, 3 deep like that, Russ, to be able to just say, hey, you know what? We got a whole nother stable of 5-star recruits. I'm not sure Brian Kelly's doing that kind of recruiting.
Hey, the reality is there's only 2 or 3 programs in the country that do that. Most teams, when you lose 5 or 6 guys to the NFL, it is a significant blow to your team the following year. It literally, Alabama, Georgia, sometimes LSU when they got their quarterback right. But there are not a lot of teams like those guys, like Oklahoma, that legitimately reload. A lot of them have solid players on the roster, but not many teams have legitimately 3 or 4 first-round guys, first-round talents, I should say, waiting to jump in and get an opportunity.
Well, to your point, look at since LSU has won that national championship. I mean, we're going on year 2 now of them kind of being a non-factor.
Yep.
Right, and so it'll be.
And they always recruit well, and that tells you
recruit well. Yep.
They always get top 10, top 15 class. It's hard to have great talent too deep. It ain't easy.
All right, so let's put Russ Lande on the hot seat here for a second. We got Thursday night football. Tampa Bay Bucks, Dallas Cowboys. Bad news for the Cowboys with their offensive lineman now is going to miss some time. Not good news for Dak Prescott. I don't know. I mean, the Cowboys in the preseason anyway, from what I saw, there was a lot of streakiness to them. Did they show some glimpses and flashes of being able to, Amari Cooper, CeeDee Lamb, Ezekiel Elliott, is the firepower there for them to kind of?
Well, I mean, I think there's talent, but hey, firstly, we don't know Dak. I mean, that's up in the air. We don't know that. One of their best offensive linemen isn't playing. To me, I have a hard time seeing how they keep this game competitive. I mean, the one thing you can sense from Tampa Bay is, obviously, I don't think everybody thought this time last year that Tampa Bay was going to win the Super Bowl. But I think you can just see, since they won the Super Bowl to now, that the way Tom Brady leads, they're not going to be taking their foot off the pedal. So I'd be very surprised if this is a close game. I sort of expect – I'm looking forward to hopefully Dak coming back and playing at a high level like he always has. But first game back, offensive line with some dings, defense hopefully going to be average after a disappointing year last year. So I don't know. This one, to me, this could be an ugly first game. And I could see Tampa winning by 2 or 3 touchdowns.
I tend to agree with you. I think it's going to be a rout. I think you might even see a Blaine Gabbert sighting by the fourth quarter. So for whatever it's worth, I'll save my prediction for Thursday. You like?
Oh, look at you! Stretch it out a little bit.
But I will say that point, it went from 6 to now 7 to now 8. So Vegas is recognizing what you just said. I will say this. I predicted yesterday's show Tampa over Buffalo for my Super Bowl prediction, and so that was my other question to put you on the spot here, so you can kind of read the tea leaves in terms of who I'm gonna pick on Thursday. But who is the Russ Lande Super Bowl prediction here on this September 7th, 2021?
Oh, that's a tough one.
You want to rub the crystal balls there for us, Russell?
Ooh, man. I think Tampa's got to be the front runner. I think the sleeper team, if I'm going to make a pick out of the box for the NFC, is Washington. Best defense in the conference, a quarterback who can throw it with anybody. Now, whether it's being turned over or not, we don't know, but they could score. I could see Washington being the sleeper team that gets pretty far in the playoffs and gets to the Super Bowl. In the AFC, that's a tough one. I tend to think Cleveland's the team. When you think about it, when you have Myles Garrett there as your guy, and you have guys like Jadeveon Clowney who are not even really the guy, who are just going to be parts of it, that they're exciting what they could be second year under Stefanski. I'm excited about where this team's going. I really think that the future, this team could be on the verge of challenging to go to the Super Bowl. I like a lot of what they're doing. And the Chiefs, if that O-line is healthy, it's hard to bet against them. I mean, to me, it's between KC and Cleveland if I were to bet two teams. And I'd probably say 55 KC, 40 Cleveland, and 5% Buffalo.
Fair enough. I think those are the teams, though, that we're all, going to be looking towards in terms of, competing for that number one seed. I do think, Kansas City, they do have all new starters. I think they upgraded their offensive line, but they still have to prove it, right? It remains to be seen. It's still a question mark until they actually do it. How is that unit going to gel? It looks great on paper, right? But until they actually do it. And you talk about, hey, they lost Sammy Watkins this year. They lost DeMarcus Robinson, I think, 2 years ago. They didn't really necessarily replace those guys. So suddenly, McCole Hardman, where he was like number 3 or number 4 in the past, he's now being counted on to be the number 2 guy. And Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce, they're not exactly the most durable guys. I'm not, I'll pencil them in for 16 games, but I'm not writing it in ink. So I think Kansas City has some question marks. Cleveland, I believe, has the strongest roster. To your point, when guys like OBJ and Jadeveon Clowney are afterthoughts, like Kareem Hunt is a backup. They're right. They're tight ends. They got like a couple of first-round picks just hanging out.
Yep. And
Kelce hasn't missed a game. All right, I apologize. Then it's George Kittle. It's the other guy out there.
But think about it. You have a guy like Grant Delpit, who they were counting on last year to play, gets hurt. Now he's back. Imagine he starts getting in and challenging for playing time.
Yeah,
that offensive line continues to stay healthy, and Baker another year in this system. To me, there's just so many things to be excited about the team. And you look at what the GM Andrew Berry has done working in sync with their head coach. I mean, there's a lot of positives when you look at the Cleveland franchise. And
I do want to say, I think Tennessee is going to be a hard out.
Yep, I agree with you.
When you have a guy like Henry in the playoffs, and you add Julio Jones now to go with it, A.J. Brown, and watch out for our guy Anthony Ferkser from Holy Cross. Got to give a shout out to my guy John Pace. And so Ferkser is a guy, Jared Cook, who's no longer there, or who Delanie Walker, whoever the tight end was
Delanie Walker, yeah.
Delanie Walker said Anthony Ferkser is going to be a breakout star this year. Book it. So.
Yeah, I'm excited to see him. The only thing I will say is let's make sure we give Ferkser his credit. You're saying Holy Cross. It's Harvard. Let's
Harvard,
get the guy a little kudos there.
There you go.
How about Holy Cross, though?
That's what you get, Russ Lande. That's why he's here, baby. Keeping me in check.
How about Holy Cross, though? Right? They upset UConn. And I was stunned because Coach Edsall's done a heck of a job. He's sort of like Greg Schiano at UConn.
Well,
a team that hadn't won for many years. He turned them around, then he left for Maryland. And now he's coming back, and it looked like things are going in the right direction. But losing to Holy Cross, and then I guess he's out. He leaves. He retires now instead of waiting until the end of the year. So that was surprising. I always liked him.
Well, I turned that game on in the fourth quarter, Russ, and UConn was gassed. I mean, they were
Really?
dead tired, and here they are getting run out of the building by Holy Cross. It was ugly. It was bad. So I don't know. I don't know where they go from here, but it's not it's not looking too good there for the UConn football program. All right, Russell Lande, Rick Serritella, back at it again here on a tutorial Tuesday. Each and every Tuesday, Russell Lande joins us on the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. Make sure you follow him at Russ Lande, and make sure you go DM him if you want to get in on the upcoming Hub Football Scout Camp. Russ will be conducting and overseeing that. It's something that is really kind of the next step to the evolution of what Hub Football is developing, which is, a platform for free agent players to work out in front of the NFL teams. And during this even COVID pandemic of 2021 season, still on Tuesdays, teams are relegated to 5 tryout guys. And also, if you're not vaccinated, you're probably not getting into the building. And so the Hub Football Camp, still a very, very valuable platform for free agent players, for NFL scouts, and the agent community. It's kind of a mini gathering, not quite the Senior Bowl, but a mini gathering of the football community. The next one is coming up September 29th in Los Angeles. And so now the new added feature, Russ, is taking the younger or current scouts that are around the NFL, that we're talking to some teams about sending some of the younger scouts, and also aspiring scouts can now register and experience the Hub Football Camp. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, I mean, as I've talked about a bunch, is I've been teaching an online class for over a decade on how to learn about scouting. And this is just the next step, because I can teach you online and tell you about the key factors of what you're looking at for players and how the business works. But getting a chance to do it live, we're going to meet up the night of the 28th. We're going to sit down in a conference room, and we're going to put on film. And we're going to watch film for about 30 minutes to an hour of one specific position. We're going to have the key attributes. We're going to watch film and sort of look at it and say, hey, this is what I consider a good jump cut. This, to me, this isn't a good cut. Look at him take all these little steps. So all the little things that I can say, hey, when you're looking at running backs, which is what the position we're going to start with is, here are the things I look for. Here are the things that are important to pay attention to. And in addition to learning to watch in the film, I'm going to teach you about, hey, this is what you do when you make a school visit. These are the things you have to be prepared for. And also, how do you measure players? We're going to take some of these guys, the players that are there the night before, we're going to bring 10 of them down, and I'm going to show them how you measure these guys. And then each of the people there is going to get a chance to measure a player. So they learn, hey, here's the way you measure a guy's height. Obviously, anybody can have a guy stand on a scale. I'm not saying that's something I got to teach him. But how do you measure height? How do you do hand size? How do you do wingspan? Things like that. It's important because, and Rick and I know this, the more when you get reports, whether it's Blesto information, National Scouting Combine information, or if it's Pro Day information, you always look to see what the letter is next to the height and the weight. Is it a C for confirmed, which means someone did it, but it's not verified NFL or CFL? Is it V for verified, which means it's NFL scout, someone that works in the NFL or has worked in the NFL, measured this person? That's important because NFL teams do not put any stock in numbers that don't have a V next to them. Because to them, they don't know who did the measuring. They don't know who did the timing. That's something we're going to teach people at this event. And then we're also going to teach them just about, hey, here's how I evaluate players when I'm out on the field at a live practice. Because live is different than film. Film, as Rick and I know, you can press pause, you can rewind, you can watch it 12 times. When you're at live practice, A, there's no pause and rewind, and B, there's 8 million things going on at once. So you have to have an efficient system for how you're going to grade players during practice, so you can take notes without having to really be looking down at your notes for too long because you don't want to miss the next play. So these are the things we're really going to take the time to learn. We're also going to have the time afterwards to sort of talk about all the different questions that come up during it. And then the next day we go out on the practice field and they get to take those notes the way I've taught them, go out and watch the players, take notes. And then between that class and the next week, they're going to write up the running backs that they saw working out, write a report on them, and then we're going to have a Zoom, a follow-up, and say, hey, when you looked at this guy, you wrote this report, but you didn't really tell me anything. Or you wrote a perfect report. This is what I want from an NFL scout. So they start to get a feel for how to scout live, how to scout off film, and how to write a report. So I'm excited about it. Never done in person like this, so it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's exciting stuff. And for those of you listening or watching at home, you see the website hubfootball.com/scout-camp. And Russell says take notes. Yes, we are old school. We use notebooks and pens and sometimes even pencils. It's funny, Russ, because I go out now and you see the scouts, they're like taking notes in their phone or they just carry around the iPad type of thing. And I guess there's fewer and fewer of us now actually taking notes literally. And that's, I guess, part of the evolution of life in the industry and technology. And so some people have the watch, they just talk right into it, and they go back and collect the audio files. It's crazy. But hey, there's a million ways to skin a cat. Come find out and learn from somebody who's been doing it. He hates when I date him for 2 decades of scouting going
true.
back to UCLA, the original XFL, the NFL, of course, with the Rams and the Browns, and currently director of U.S. scouting for the Montreal Allouettes, and conducting the football GM and scouting course on Sports Management Worldwide, still with John Wooten and Mark Dominic. Where you at with that, Russ? You guys winding down another semester there?
Yeah, today is linebackers. Then we have DBs, so 3 more weeks. It'll be in depth. We were driving deep last week doing the defensive line, sort of getting the nitty gritty on the 1 gap, the 2 gap, and all that stuff. But this week we're going to dive into the linebackers and really try to teach these guys, hey, here are the things you got to look for in a linebacker. The game has changed a lot from what it was 15 years ago when you and I started, and you would always look for that big Mike who would crush people in the middle but couldn't cover you or I. And nowadays, if you have that guy in the field, it's a liability. So these are things we're trying to teach is not just how to scout, but how the game has changed and how you as a scout have to be able to change. You have to be able to say, you know what, when I started in this business and I looked for middle linebackers, this is what I thought. You can't keep that mentality if you want to survive and be a productive scout. You have to be open and ready to change as the game changes. And that's part of what we teach in the course is adaptability. And you and I, you like to joke about me 2 decades. I'm pretty sure this was year 2021. So both of us now have been doing this way too long.
Thanks, Russ.
Hey, if I'm going under the bus, you're coming.
Well, I will say, you don't hear the phrase 2 down thumper too often these days in the scouting community.
No. Or nose tackle. Where's the big nose tackles anymore? Those guys, I mean, they can get out there for 8 snaps a game, 10 snaps a game, and then it's go sit over there and just don't break the bench when you sit on it. I mean,
yeah,
those 30 to 50-pound D tackles, there's not a lot of use for them anymore.
No, it's true. Unless you're Jordan Davis, talk about a 350-pounder who's mobile and agile and just a force to be reckoned with. That guy is nasty. And so, again, he's been listed as much as 380. He's generously listed at 350 right now. You wonder, how that impacts his draft stock. But, hey, it's been another hour of power here. Unbelievable to think that time has flown by once again on this Tutorial Tuesday. Lorenz in the chat room chiming in. Yeah, baby, we got the Prospect Profits. When is the next show, brother? These guys are like live almost every day. Alec Polito, Jack Despo, and Lorenz Leinviba from across the pond getting out there. Lorenz, by the way, do you want to pop on tomorrow and talk some ELF? Samantha, can we get Lorenz to pop on tomorrow? Do we have a slot? Can we slide him in a window? Thursday, but they have the podcast, NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network is just every day a new show. And then Thursday, the Prospect Profits will be going live. We'll see if we can pop Lorenz up tomorrow and do we have a 9:30 window, Samantha's telling me, or 9:25, Lorenz, if you're available. See, we do business on the air over here. We'll also have Chris O'Leary checking in with the CFL recap, taking a look ahead at the weekend ahead. Chris does a great job. I mean, we're just so lucky to have him here each and every Wednesday. As well as, we'll be talking to the ELF right after the show and find out who our guest will be this week. I know the playoffs are getting ready to kick into high gear. So, it's exciting times over there in Europe. Have the super producer shoot him a text. There you go, Samantha. We got Lorenz booked. We have ELF day tomorrow. We got CFL day tomorrow. And Thursday, we've got Dane Vandernat and Neil Stratton. Friday, it's a Football Friday affair. Stay tuned for more predictions this week. We'll sprinkle in some NFL flavor. I went 6-4 against the spread, 2-1 best bets. We're off to a hot start here on the State of Football. We'll be back at it again tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern. Parting shot for the people, Russ Lande, before we let you go.
It's exciting. The Alouettes get the big win, and obviously it's a sad day with our former owner, Mr. Wettenhall, passing away. But kudos to what Mr. Wettenhall did for not just the Alouettes and saving the franchise, but really what he did for the CFL and building what really was, like I said, saving a franchise, turned them into a powerhouse that went to 8 Grey Cups in 10 years. So my thoughts are with his family, good people, a great owner, and someone that really made a career on the side of his career where he made all the money, a career of being involved in professional football, both as a part owner of the Patriots and then longtime owner of the Montreal Allouettes.
Well, Montreal made him proud this week for sure with the big win. We'll end on that note. For Russ Lande, I'm Rick Serritella. This was the State of Football, part of the Fan Nation Network on Sports Illustrated. We'll see you tomorrow, everybody.